Hi, I'm Russ Durstein, and this is another one of our famous congressional conversations for Concerned Veterans for America. With me today, I have my very own Congressman, August Pfluger from San Angelo, the 11th District that you represent. Welcome to Congressional Conversations.
Thanks, Russ. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. You, of course, sit on the one of the most important committees we have, energy producing. Coming from one of the energy producing parts of the state and the country, it's very important. Would you mind talking a little bit about why cheap and abundant energy is so important to all Americans?
Well, first off, thanks for this topic because I don't think it gets enough attention, and I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that energy security is national security, but it starts as an economic tool. And without our economy, we don't have a military. Without our economy, we don't have trade. Without our economy, we really don't have security. So when you think about inexpensive, affordable, reliable energy, and especially from a secure area like the Permian Basin that I represent, it is so fundamentally important. Think about inflation, and one of the biggest factors in inflation is high energy costs. It costs the average American family when they're heating and cooling their home. It costs them to fill up their car. It costs them in their businesses. So this to me is so foundational, and we should be doing everything possible in our country to unleash our own potential instead of what we see in the administration, which is trying to kill it.
Absolutely. I was an Air Force veteran myself during the Cold War, 6 years, worked NORAD. And at that time, energy was such an important part of battling with the Soviet Union. I got to serve during the Reagan years, and obviously seeing the role that played, it still comes true today, what we see as a tool. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I also noticed that you're an Air Force pilot out of San Angelo, of course. You're also on the National Security Council, and you're now a colonel in the Air Force Reserve.
Yep, that's right.
So how has your background shaped the way you think about energy and how it impacts all of our strategic interests? It's a very complicated world stage we're on right now.
Well, as a fighter pilot, we talked about energy. That's what we did, potential energy, kinetic energy. And I kind of think of the situation we're in our country in a very similar way, which is you have to have energy. And I don't just mean the energy that turns the lights on. What I'm really talking about is something to bolster our security. And when you look at what the military does, you want strength. That's what you and I, when we serve, you just want strength. You want to be able to win. We don't want to go into conflicts. That's not something that anyone is looking for, but it is something, if you're put in that situation, you need to win. And so strength is important. Energy is part of strength. And I kind of think of it on an economic level as those businesses that want to innovate, they want to expand, and they want to do more to lead in any industry. Let's just call it semiconductors or AI or any of the tech industry, they need energy. And so in order to be able to expand and innovate and produce and manufacture, inexpensive and reliable energy is so important. And it really cuts across every industry that we see.
One of the things that we're noticing right now is world oil prices being rather high, and the United States can produce the same energy so much cheaper if it weren't for regulation, if it weren't for shutting down the economy. If you mind talking a little bit about the benefit it does for our adversaries, how oil prices benefits Russia and Iran, and where America obviously could do it much cheaper than they do.
And it's not just prices, and those prices obviously impact their revenues. Russia made a tremendous amount of money in between the 2010 time period and about 2020 time period because of high prices. But also, when we stop producing here, we are basically telling Russia, we're telling Iran, we're telling other countries that are our adversaries, here's your gift, you can produce it. And they're going to produce not just gas and oil, but coal. And we see many coal plants going up. So it is a gift geopolitically to our adversaries when we stop producing here. If we really care about emissions, because the life cycle emissions in the U.S. are at least 30 to 40% lower than they are in places like Russia. If we care about that, then we will actually produce more here, and we will limit what others around the world, other countries, especially our adversaries, can do.
We can do it so much cleaner than they can. Late January, we heard that President Biden is delaying approval for what would be the United States' largest liquid natural gas, or LNG, exports to terminal to date, the CP2 project. Can you talk a little bit more about why LNG is so important and how this is going to be a painful decision if it's followed through?
It's a poorly thought out and just egregious national security mistake by the administration. And I go back to September 6th of 2019. Then candidate Joe Biden said, I will end fossil fuels. I guarantee you we will end fossil fuels. Well, I take him at his word, and this January 26, 2024 announcement to ban the export of LNG in this country could not be a worse decision domestically, especially for our allies. Think about what he said last year and the year before when he said, we are going to meet the need of the Europeans in the wake of the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin. Well, how can you do that when you ban LNG exports? So once again, whether it's the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan or whether it's not paying attention to Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism or now in the LNG space, our allies are learning that President Biden is not there for them. He is not actually helping to meet their needs, which one of the most important is energy.
And so many of those allies really would like to have and depend on us creating cheap energy.
Yep.
It's mutually beneficial between us.
Mutually beneficial. It creates hundreds of thousands of jobs here. I'm proud to be the sponsor of HR 7176, which will hopefully become a household name. But that is the bill that would prevent the administration from banning LNG exports. And it wasn't too long ago that we didn't actually export crude oil. But since 2015, that has become such a hallmark of our economy and our GDP. And to see a president who has said that he wants to push back against Ukraine, yet he won't provide LNG to Poland, to the Czech Republic, to Ukraine, it doesn't match up. It's weakening us, it's weakening our allies.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? So,
It certainly is.
yes. Well, you have one of the best districts in the entire nation. I favor it quite a bit.
We're both biased in
We're
that
both
regard.
biased. I love living in San Angelo in West Texas. If you don't mind just sharing maybe a little bit more about the impact of HR 1, what it is that we need to do in the future, forward-looking, this year and then into the next administration. What are some of the important things that we need to do in the energy sector?
Well, first off, I've loved this discussion because West Texas really is the home of energy, and we've got it all. We have obviously oil and gas, and we have a tremendous amount of wind energy and solar energy. We want energy that works. And HR 1, which is House Resolution 1, reserved for the most important priority, legislative priority, is all about lowering the cost of energy for Americans. You pair that up with Nancy Pelosi's HR 1, and hers was to federalize elections, to mail out ballots to everybody, even if you didn't ask for it. Ours helps every American family. And important tenets of that are exactly what you've been discussing with me today. Let's unleash domestic production. Let's make it easier to get permits. Let's make it easier to export. Let's not put bans or false timelines, but let's actually unleash the same industry that helped us win World War II, and to do it in places like the Marcellus and the Bakken and the Utica and the Eagle Ford and the Permian Basin. These are great producing areas. We have we're just blessed as a country to have this resource under our feet. We use it responsibly, but we should be using it. And I think we have a responsibility to do that, not just for us, but for our allies.
Wonderful. Congressman Pfluger, any final thoughts you have or anything I didn't ask you that you would think would be worth adding to the conversation?
You've asked some great questions. I say thank you to your organization, to what you guys do for so many people throughout the country, not just veterans, but obviously for the work that you do to recognize what our country needs to get us back on track. And thank you for having a great discussion today.
Yeah, thank you for that plug. Concerned veterans for America. For is the most important part. We're about using that freedom for all of our fellow citizens. So that was a great plug. Thank you. I want to thank you today for joining us on another congressional conversation, this time with my own Congressman August Pfluger from the great city of San Angelo and from the great district of CD11. So, August, thank you so much for your time.
Russ.
Appreciate it.
Yep.